Hey there, St. Andrew family. As I began thinking about this Sunday's sermon, I immediately thought of an old, drippy, sentimental breakup song from the 1970s titled Feelings. After all these years, I can still hear it playing over the FM radio while cruising in the back seat of my parents' '76 Ford Thunderbird as a child, completely oblivious at the time to heartbreak and the casualties of adult romance. Do you remember that song? Feelings, nothing more than feelings. Trying to forget my feelings of love. Teardrops rolling down my face. Trying to forget my feelings of love. With all its talk about feelings, it seems now like such a sad, sappy, nausea-inducing song, doesn't it? When it comes to talking about our feelings, perhaps times have changed just a bit. There is a stigma around talking about our feelings these days. For many, especially men, expressing our feelings is perceived often as a sign of emotional weakness and helplessness. This fear of vulnerability can drive many to stifle or bottle up their emotions, which often leads to self-isolating or self-numbing behaviors, or worse, even to acts of violence. Perhaps this cultural stigma around expressing our feelings is best captured in another hit song, this one from the 1990s by the Eagles called Get Over It. Do you remember that song? Get over it, get over it. All this whining, crying, pitching a fit, get over it, get over it. But here's the truth about expressing our feelings. Teardrops and whining and pitching a fit are not required. In fact, they're mostly just cheap substitutes for our true feelings. And they often become barriers to being truly seen and understood by others. The truth is, we need a better way to express our feelings. And if we want to communicate in healthy ways with those with whom we disagree, we need to give ourselves permission to express our feelings openly in ways that do not provoke defensiveness or reactivity in the other. This weekend, as we continue our Talk Like Jesus series, we'll look at the second step of nonviolent communication, which is expressing our feelings. Marshall Rosenberg, the pioneer of nonviolent communication, believed that the key to expressing human connection and establishing empathy with one another is in expressing how we feel when that person behaves in ways we do not like. When you do that, we might say, this is how I feel. It sounds easy, but it turns out we're not so very skilled at it, mostly because we often try to assign intent to that person's behavior, or we try to interpret it or to overstate it. How do we simply own and communicate what we're feeling without identifying ourselves as a victim and without blaming or triggering the one with whom we're in conflict? This Sunday, we're going to look at this step through the lens of Jesus' lament over Jerusalem. It's a story about a brief but tender declaration that Jesus makes near the very end of his earthly ministry, in which Jesus expresses his deep sadness that the people he came to love and teach ultimately rejected him. And here in this story, Jesus expresses his true feelings in ways that are honest but not hurtful, vulnerable but not manipulative. And in doing so, he gives us some clues as to how we, in the midst of conflict or difficult conversations, can express our feelings in ways that maintain human connection and keep open the possibility of an ongoing relationship. This sermon series is so important and urgent given all the unhealthy, ugly, and heated conversations that dominate our lives in nearly every sphere of life. Argumentativeness and hostility and conflict have become so normalized in our society that we often do not even know how to talk to each other without hurting each other, even those we love deeply but may not agree with. So friends, make some time for worship this weekend and commit yourself to finding peace and making peace in these turbulent times. I'll be preaching at 8, 9, and 10:30 a.m. this Sunday, and I can't wait to share this message with you. In the meantime, be well, be blessed, and be loved.